I own, man, it's tough. I'll say this: I take responsibility for everything I've ever said or done. Like that's on me. That's on me. And ultimately, how I interpret something, I'm my own person, and at this point in my life, I'm a grown ass man. So any of my actions, thoughts, idea, whatever it is, I've had so much time to shape myself. Right. I will say that at a certain point in my life, I'd never even dated anybody in my 20s because I swore it off. I was like, not like out of a religious way, but like once I found film at 24. I just was like, I don't want to. I became so obsessed with it and was like trying to build a career, and I felt like it was late for me. So like after how many years, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna, for me, it was like give my 20s over to God. I'm gonna focus just on pursuing film, man. So it was less of like super pop. Like I just was like I really wanted to get it more ahead in film, and I loved it, right? And I wanted to like I just focused on that instead. So my 20s, I was never in a serious relationship. Now I'd kind of like some girl here, kind of make out, kind of, but I'd never really pursued any kind of relationship. And it's funny because a lot of things that I probably shouldn't necessarily go into detail about. But what I can say is this: is my mental health is a whole thing, yada, yada, but this is dealing more so with just circumstances in life. My mental health is always an underlying factor in things. But um, I remember the first time I slept with someone. Sounds crazy, I know. I was in my 30s. That's how long it took. It wasn't until I was in my 30s that I slept with somebody. As wild as I know, it sounds wild. And under the circumstances, it was not a positive experience at all. And it was actually met with, the night itself was very odd in some ways. I remember the next day, there was an expression from the other person of a fear of whether or not they might be pregnant. Knowing what I know now, I look back and I'm like, no. I'm like, no, you're fine. But when you are not used to something, you don't know what you don't know. And there are a lot of details that I won't get into, but that first experience was a violation for me of like how I lived, what I believed, right, about sex and things. And I hated myself. Like I literally, I would write, I would journal, right? That like I really like, and that's gonna sound weird, I know, but I was like, I journaled that like I think I feel like I was cursed. I felt like I cursed my life. I feel like I ruined my life from sleeping with somebody. I was like, I ruined my life, and it wasn't just as simple as that. It was like it's like sleeping together, and then pregnancy scare, and then there's a whole little mini season that ended a bit traumatically for me. It took a long time to heal. But what's really hard is that I own my own life, my own actions. But what's crazy is that I slick the mic. A big reason emotionally and mentally that I responded the way that I did was because of this fear and shame. And it was so intense. Like the guilt and the shame and the hatred of myself. Like I literally like thought I ruined my life. I really was like, I ruined my life. I ruined my life. Here's what's crazy. Being very candid right now. This person I really feel like I loved, and that's what drew me in to making some of the decisions I made. And in the wake of that, I felt so bad after that ended, that little period of ours. After that ended, I had my first drink a little bit. Like I started drinking in my 30s too. I didn't drink my whole life, which is crazy. I know. But this really, it's complicated. After having made some of the decisions I made, I felt like I ruined my life, and I felt like I was cursed by God, and I felt like I just every awful thing you could imagine. Yes, which then affected my mental health in a really negative capacity. Which then, when when I hang out with friends, we would go downtown, and I was just like, it was hard to say no because I'm like anything to get away from how awful I feel about myself, how horrible, how ugly and disgusting I am. And then I would drink, and drinking would shut my brain off, right? So I got into drinking. And it's not like I would wake up in a parking garage, but I was drinking a lot, like heavily, because it would shut my brain off. And then as time went on, I really did my best to try and get healthy at first, but then without meaning to, I ended up getting on dating apps, and the first date got physical. My first experience with my first dating app was physical, and then the second was sexual, and then that led to eventually sleeping around. So you go from somebody who doesn't do anything to now I'm like pretty much doing everything, and I don't have cool stories to share of saying like, wow, man, I was like crazy. I jumped off this bridge and then I did, I did blow and I woke up in whatever, But relative to my story, things got out of control, bad, man. But I realized like later on, I could look back at my story. Got a little slow, depressed there. Sorry, but later on, I could look back at my story, right, and realize that my heart, the first experience I had with sex was so traumatizing for me that I think sleeping around became a way to minimize the importance of that first encounter I had. And I don't say that lightly. And I think we do things and we don't even know why we're doing them, And in the moment, you think, I've already like ruined everything. So what does this matter? It doesn't. And it's not purely the fault of a culture. I'm not trying to say that. And I didn't mean to get this deep or whatever about my own story. But the reality is that a lot of what was, I know, just in me made me do the very things that I was like told not to do. It's like the shame surrounding those behaviors was so intense that once I actually crossed that line, I had no way out. Is like I thought it was over. I thought I ruined my life, and so then it's like, well, then who gives a fuck? Like honestly, like who gives a fuck at this point? And you just burn your life to the ground. It's like just whatever. And again, I'm not. I can't sit here like I'm some like Hell's Angel, tatted up, crazy, like blah, like. No, I'm not gonna act like I'm something I'm not. But I will say, like, definitely lived recklessly in some ways and did a lot of dumb things. And to be honest, it just started burying how much I hated myself. Just like, well, I've already ruined everything, so it can't get any worse than this. I'm not trying to blame anything, but that's why I said at the beginning that that kind of way of that culture, what it teaches, what it pushes, it can create the very thing it's trying to avoid, destroy, get rid of. It created it in me. I've come back down to reality, thankfully. I'm not in that place anymore. drinking, habits, behaviors. Like, I'm in a much healthier place today. I'm very thankful for that. But it took a lot of healing, man. I'm not gonna explain another time, but it took a lot of healing, and it took a lot of life and a lot of relationships and a lot of mental health and all kind of stuff. Took me a long time to rebel, but it came out eventually. There's no blame. It's just I know how I interpreted things myself, and that's where I ended up. So, didn't really mean to get in all that specifically to that degree, but I don't know. I just thought about it. That's my story, man. And hey, those experiences have made me who I am. And it is what it is. It is what it is. I am who I am, and I'm not gonna what am I gonna do? I am who I am. It just makes me think, about if I have kids someday. It makes me think about people that I talk to. Makes me think about my family. It's just it's tough because I can relate to so many more people now, and I understand life so much more now. There's so many things that I get, which I could say that's a conversation for another time. But it is very hard to go through that and feel a measure of here's how we should live, and the dogma of my faith, believing in Christ, none of that ever changed. It was just the behavior. Probably end it here. But, man, that season wrecked me, man. And it was a large result of what I believed about myself. And this is the side people don't talk about as much. How do you account for the fact that people are going to make their own decisions and do their own things? What do you do then? What do you do when someone's not perfect? What do you do then? What do you do if someone does the, unpardonable thing? By God's grace, I'm on the other side of a lot, man. But that way of thinking is just, it's tricky, man. It's tricky. I got a bit heavy about all this, and I didn't mean to. But, I'll end with this, I guess, since more I could say in another video, but I'll end with this. Imagine a kid has a ball. He likes playing with a ball, right? But you don't want him to play with the ball. If you just go and take the ball from him, what's he going to do? He's going to cry or get mad, or right? Fill in the blank. He's not going to be happy or just acquiesce, right? He's going to be upset. If restrictive culture can do that and just say, give me that. Give me that thing you have. I'm going to take that away from you. Even for someone growing up, your sexuality, I'm taking that away from you. No. Oh, God, I have to tell it all the time. Because if you're a Christian and you don't have sex, you're going to have a great marriage. Yeah, okay. I know a lot of shitty Christian marriages that waited for marriage. Marriage is actually a lot more than sex, okay? But that kid, what would happen if you gave him something better than the ball? Not even take the ball and explain to him why he shouldn't have it. What if he said, here, I got something better? Great. It's not about manipulating him, but it's show him a better life. Show him something better. Don't just take the ball away and be surprised when he cries and pitches a fit. It's give him something better. That's all I got, man. Yeah, I didn't mean to get off on all this. So, wow. There's another side to these things, man, and you can go through you can be suppressed and be healthy. You can rebel and become healthy again, or you can be healthy. It's possible to become healthy in any scenario. You just got to be careful when you base your entire ideology, what feels like for people, on don't. It's tricky. But hey, here we are today by the grace of God, man. Anyway, that's all I got for this one. That got heavy. God's good, man. By the grace of God, God's good. Found my way out. I don't know what to say. Make of this what you will.